Hello， 大家好，欢迎来到纽约华人资讯网的直播现场，我是主播莉亚。近视问题呢，已经成为了全球范围内的严重健康挑战，特别是儿童当中，近视的发病率正在以惊人的速度上升。根据预测，2050年全球近视患者就会达到50亿人，其中有高达10亿人是超过600度的高度近视。那么今天的节目我们将会聚焦在儿童近视控制的方法上，其中 Ortho-K 镜也是一种角膜塑形镜，作为一种重要的防御近视发展的干预手段备受关注。当然呢，除了 Ortho-K 还会有更多的控制方式。我们非常荣幸邀请到的是纽约 Raymond Fong Eye Care 诊所的创始人邝理中博士 Dr. Raymond Fong。 邝理中博士呢是毕业于哈佛大学，是一位拥有超过35年经验的顶尖眼科医生。他的诊所在纽约市激光矫正和白内障手术的权威中心。同时呢，邝理中博士 Dr. Fong 他也是3个孩子的父亲。他的3个孩子呢，要么是毕业于或者是已经就读在哈佛大学。那今天的 Dr. Fong 也将会从医生和一个父亲的双重的角度来为我们分享儿童近视控制的重要性，以及他对常青藤名校申请的独特见解。首先请 Dr. Fong 跟我们打个招呼吧。 Hello Dr. Fong, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi Leah, thanks for allowing me to join you.
Those are very lovable family photos. We're going to talk about it later. So
Okay.
Myopia has become a global pandemic, and particularly among children. I was nearsighted since I was 6. So can you tell us about what's happening in the field of myopia control?
Sure. Myopia is genetic and environmental, but the environmental is what's really become more and more important because we're seeing an epidemic. Okay? You look at high myopia, which is 6 diopters and above, okay, there's probably going to be an increase 5-fold by 2050.
Yeah.
So in terms of just people wearing glasses, you're talking about maybe half of the world having to wear glasses for myopia. So it's an extremely important disease, okay, that we hope we can do something about and treat. And there are some treatments for it, okay, and one of them, probably the most popular, is for Ortho-K, orthokeratology. So what is orthokeratology? Ortho, basically, it's a device that you put on the eye. Okay, so the eye is like a camera, and you put the hard contact lens, the rigid semi-permeable contact lens, it presses on the cornea and flattens it, reducing the myopia.
Right.
That's what Ortho-K is. It's been around since the 1960s, but the lenses have gotten better and better and more comfortable.
Got it. So do you feel like it is effective of Ortho-K to control the myopia development?
Yes and no. It's not a cure for myopia. So if you have Ortho-K, you will still always have myopia, and you will be wearing what's called retainer contact lenses, just like retainer braces, pretty much the rest of your life overnight. Okay, it reduces the myopia, and it's great in terms of reducing myopia to the point where you don't need glasses, okay, for the low myopes. But again, you still have to wear contact lenses overnight for the rest of your life. Okay? Where it's not as effective is in the high myopia range. However, okay, it still reduces the high myopia as well. Okay. So my feeling is that it's still really this, okay, low myopia, it's good, but generally if you're low myope, look at the parents. Okay. If the parents are low myopes, it's really unlikely, even with environmental concerns, that the child will become very, very myopic. If they're low myope, the kids can be low myopes. At some point in the future, do LASIK, laser vision correction, and take care of it once and for all, instead of having to go through 8 to 10 years wearing contact lenses, which are very expensive, by the way, and all this treatment. For the high myopes, I think it's a much better treatment. And the reason is because the reason people get when they're sighted is their eye elongates. And when it elongates, those layers, especially the retina, get thinner. Okay, for some reason with Ortho-K, by reducing the myopia, flattening it, also reduces the stimulus to get longer. So it may actually prevent much more cases of high myopia. So if the parents are wearing thick glasses, and the kids begin to wear thick glasses, I think that's really where Ortho-K would benefit the most. And again, it doesn't cure the myopia. What hopefully it does is it reduces it so that it doesn't become extremely high myopia.
Got it. Let's say I was super myopic, but my husband actually just had -2. What happened to my kids?
How myopic were you?
I had a -13 diopter.
Oh, I think the kids will be high myopia.
All right. Okay, let's talk about the risk and the side effects, because I always heard from like refractive surgeons like, okay, if you wear ortho-K, you're going to have to stop for at least a half the year to recover your cornea so that we can know if you're a candidate for such kind of the surgery. It seems like it will affect your future refractive surgery choices or options. So are there any like side effects of ortho-K long-term using?
Okay, so ortho-K, I mean, you also have to be careful about infections, especially you're putting in little kids and, you know, they get prone to infections. So just be aware of that. And the parents have to be aware any sign of redness, discharge, or whatever, go see the doctor. So that's an immediate concern for orthokeratology. In terms of what to do about ortho-K patients who then want LASIK, yes, it's not that straightforward because you have to be off the ortho-K lenses. My view is at least 3 months, and then we take a baseline, we look at 3 months. If it's different, wait another 3 months so it's stable. Once it's stable, then we can do the LASIK. Now, the good thing about the LASIK is that if it changes again, we can always touch it up, retouch it.
Right.
So it's more measurements, it's waiting, but again, it's not, oh, measure you, we'll do it, you'll be fine for the rest of your life, not something like that.
Right. And also people are worried about the dry eyes and it will, you know, do harm on their corneas, because people don't want to get their kids to get high myopic because probably you're going to have LASIK later in the future. But if you have a very weak cornea, you're not a LASIK candidate, right? It's kind of like a trade-in. So do you observe more dryness in their eyes if they're wearing a long time of the ortho-K?
No, with the ortho-K, we don't see that many dry eyes. We just think that a lot of kids will not tolerate ortho-K. Can you imagine putting contact lenses on your 7-year-old or 8-year-old? I'm not going to tolerate it. Now,
Right.
There's another technology called Smile. I think the lens is called, not Smile, it's called MySight. And that's for daily wear during the daytime. So if you have somebody who's 13, 14 years old, they can wear that to control their myopia. Again, it's not a cure. It just prevents temporarily more myopia. But the kids have to be on ortho-K lenses for a long, long time. And it is very, very expensive. My feeling is that the low myopes, just let it go and just take care of it when you're older, when the vision is stable. When you're high myopes, maybe there's a you know, a reason to do that.
Right. How expensive it is? More expensive than the refractive surgeries?
It's a lot more expensive than refractive surgery. In fact, wearing contact lenses, getting glasses over 10 years or 20 years is more expensive than refractive surgery.
Got
People
it.
don't realize it because they're spending it in little drips and drabs. But when you accumulate all the expenses, it is more expensive.
Right. You were talking about
That's
young
a
kids
good
probably cannot tolerate the ortho-K, but what about adults? Like, can myopia be controlled in adulthood by wearing ortho-K?
No, once you're an adult, you're an adult. You're not going to get any taller. You may get fatter, but you're not getting any taller. So the structure is pretty much permanent. Ortho-K or anything else is not going to help that.
Got
You
it.
can't reduce myopia.
Right. So basically your suggestion would be like more outdoor time and prevent it naturally and accept reality.
What we're talking about is how to reduce myopia. And the way to reduce or prevent myopia is in kids early on. Okay, not in adults. Adults, too late, too bad. In kids, the key, okay, to all the studies we've done is one thing: sunlight. For whatever reason, exposure to sunlight, okay, stabilizes the eye so the eye doesn't get that much longer. So it's myopia control. It's very simple. Have the kids go out, play, go into sunlight. If they're going to read outside. If they're going to do computer work, okay, or play on the iPad, do it by the window. Put their desk by the window so they get sunlight. Sunlight is the key.
Got it. That's very interesting. I know you have a beautiful family with 3 kids who, just like you, they're either graduate or current student at Harvard University. So as a parent, how did you balance, encourage their study with preventing the progression of the myopia?
Leah, they don't listen to me. Their myopia is still increasing, even to the older guy.
Right.
He's 28 years old. He just doesn't listen. None of them listen. It's one thing being a parent as opposed to the doctor. They see me as a parent. I tell them or I advise them to do this and that, they don't listen. So from that point of view, I'm an utter failure.
Right. I mean, all parents, they're same. I understand you, Lei. So could you please share some advice for other parents, raising the successful kids? I mean, your kids, they're good. I wish my daughter can be like them. And you truly lived an American dream. You grew up in the Chinatown with parents who were immigrants, they were factory workers, and yet you earned scholarships to top schools like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Even graduated early from medical school, and your older son graduated first at Harvard Business School. I mean, how can you imagine that? I mean, your daughter is Wellesley and Johns Hopkins Public Health alumni, and your youngest son is now studying at Harvard. So what is your secret? How did you make your kids success like you?
Okay, so this is a very interesting topic for me, and it's one close to my heart, because I think that when I look at parents, and they ask me, well, what do you have to do? I think a lot of parents, Chinese parents, are doing absolutely the wrong thing.
Really?
They're actually making it worse for the kids. Okay,
really?
So I'm going to be long-winded about this, but I would like to give you some perspective of 55 years.
Okay.
Looking through the educational system. So when I came to the United States, there weren't that many Chinese. Okay, I grew up in the slums. My advantage in applying to school was actually my disadvantage. But that's actually a phrase that Senator Raymond Fong, who was the first Chinese to be U.S. Senator, paraphrased it. My advantage was my disadvantage. In other words, here I am, some poor kid, no resources, working in the slums. All of a sudden, I'm getting great grades. I'm playing musical instruments. I'm doing that. They said, hey, this kid, he stands out. He had no advantages. Okay, he had no one to help him. Here he is. He's excellent in so many things. So my advantage was the fact that I was disadvantaged financially, social, economically. The problem these days with this generation is that their disadvantage is their advantage. The fact that they are pampered, that they have iPad, internet, they have all the resources, that actually works as a disadvantage to them. But on top of all that, people have to realize, there's a quota system in the United States. There is an absolute discriminatory quota system. Give you an example. When I applied to Harvard, there were only 30 Chinese in a class of 1,600. The class size has not changed. I was one of 3 Chinese boys from New York City to go to Harvard, get into Harvard. They only took 3. They didn't want to take any more. Why? Most of the admission officers, what were they? White. Like people like. If I'm in a cocktail party and I see a Chinese across the room, I'm going to go to him first or her first and talk to them. So the white admissions officers took a lot of whites. Now, back in the fast forward a little bit, 70s and 80s, it was yellow power, black power. Now the government says, hey, you're taking too many whites. You got to, take minorities. At that time, Chinese were still considered minorities. They were the smart minorities. They were the silent minority. They're the ones who took care of themselves. So what happened? From the time I entered Harvard to the time I left, there was like a 3-fold increase in the number of Chinese. Why? The admissions officer says, well, we want minorities, but we want them to be smart. Hey, the Chinese are really smart. Let's get more of them in. Fast forward another 10, 15 years. Now we're talking about the 90s, 2000. Diversity. Too many Chinese. There's too many of them succeeding in the Ivy Leagues. What do we need to do? Well, we need to put more Hispanics and Blacks, and we have to really diversify. So, but our admission criteria, what can we do about that? I'm going to show you what they did. So on the color slide on my left-hand side, it shows the number or percentage of Asians, Hispanic, and Blacks. Now, the Asians are that yellow, the one on the bottom. You see they're the smallest of the minorities, but you see they're growing. They're growing at 2-3 times the rate.
Yes.
During the same time, if you look at the admission for Caltech, so now you go to the other slide, look at Asians, that's a black dotted line, it's going up. Guess what? Caltech, which is all a meritocracy, California Institute of Technology, their admissions for Asians mirror the number of percent of Asians in this country. Look at all the other Ivy Leagues. all of them, within a span of from 1990 to 2011, and these are government statistics, okay, for over 10, at least 20 years, narrow band, 18 plus or minus 2 in each of the Ivies. Now, that's not a quota system and discriminatory. I don't know what is. What they did was they changed the admissions criteria. They said, you know, we're looking for leaders. We don't want somebody just smart in math or science. We're looking for leaders, people who can do different things, who will be future senators, future leaders of the future. This is exactly what the Ivy Leagues did back in the early 1900s to the Jewish people,
right?
To the Jews. What they did, a lot of Jews were coming in, the admissions officers were going crazy, like, we can't have this. What are we going to do? Oh, we're not going to go by grades. We're going to go by other things like extracurricular activities or gentlemanly qualities. Who fits our criteria of gentlemen? Oh, it's the whites. They're doing the same thing for the Ivy Leagues. Who fits our criteria? Diversity, leaders, people who speak out, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially, okay, by letting more blacks and Hispanics in, they're discriminating against the Chinese. Now, I'm not saying, okay, that the blacks and Hispanics were not discriminated against in the past. My point is that for sure you're discriminating against the Asians and the Chinese.
Got it. So it's kind of like a true story that if an Asian kid, they change their last name and they can get like higher.
Yes. An Asian kid in the 10th percentile, okay, of the SAT or whatever, the SAT, has the same chance as a black in the 70th percentile, which means like 70% down, the same chance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They're looking at these leadership qualities, which is, excuse my English, BS. Yeah. They actually did a study. They took applications from people. They crossed out the names so you couldn't tell whether it's Asian, and they rated them on leadership scores. Then they took the same people, okay, put their names in, and the same people evaluate them on the leadership scores. Guess what? When the people who evaluated them realized they were Asian, they gave them a lower leadership score.
Right.
Same applications, lower leadership score. They just saw them as people who didn't talk, who were just good at one thing, who would not contribute to the community.
Got it. So what we can do as a parent, is it useful to make some donations to the college to get a pass or anything?
Okay. So I think number one, the parents have to realize, look, it's a discriminatory system. Okay, it works against you. What you don't want to do is fit in the mold that works against you. Okay, what you don't want to do, okay, is be the Asian parent that wants his kid to be great in math or to play piano or violin music lesson, because believe me, okay, all the Asian kids are doing, and I see the parents of all my friends doing the same thing, and you know what? It leads nowhere. They're not looking at that. I'll give you an example. There's something called the Tchaikovsky competition worldwide. Okay, all the amateurs, okay, from around the world play, and it's the most prestigious piano competition, okay, ever for the amateurs. So my friend who was in Connecticut was on the admissions committee. They had the first runner-up to the Tchaikovsky competition, an 18-year-old, okay, who was first runner-up. She was rejected.
Wow.
So the head of the Connecticut committee is really irate, calls up Dean Fitzsimmons, who was head of admissions, said, look, this girl's first runner-up in the world in the piano. Why did you reject her? Dean says, you know, we got the winner. Plus we have 2 professional pianists in our class. That's enough. We don't need any more. So unless you're really, really good and your kid is so talented, it just stands ahead and above, yes, go for it. But for the rest of us, it's not going to happen. I put my kids in piano lesson. It was a waste. What I think parents need to do is sit back and say, what is in America that people value? Okay, they value individualism. They do value leadership. They value people who speak up. They want people who have talent, multi-talents. And so if your kid has certain talents, okay, nurture them. Okay, it doesn't mean they have to study, you know, till midnight or 1 a.m. Basically, treat your kids as an individual. See what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Don't go into a pattern, piano, violin, math. Kuhlman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not going to hit it. Yeah, people good in science and math. You're right. Caltech, MIT, meritocracies. But the admission, okay, the number of students at MIT and Caltech is like 1/10 of the rest of the Ivies.
Yeah.
You get a chance.
It's harder, I mean.
Yeah. What do you want to do at the end of the day? You want to be one of those computer cogs in a big office, okay, in a little cubicle, and you're afraid your job is going to be supplanted by AI? Or do you want to be in a corner office being the leader? And we need more leaders. We need people with talents, with multiple. We need diverse Asians, Chinese. That's where the future lies. And I advise the parents, let your kids be an individual. Let them blossom. Let them do what they like to do, whatever it is. Don't hold them back and think that strict piano, violin, math type of routine.
That's beautiful suggestion. Oh my God. It is because our Asian kids, they're not diverse in themselves, right? Because you always like being the very stereotypical Asian kids.
Yes.
And probably your kids in favor of rap, but I'm sure like no Asian parents want them to be a rapper or anything because it's just not Asians. Because in our stereotypes, like Asians should be good at math, which I'm horrible at. Yes. And they should play violin, they should play piano. Both me and my husband, we don't know how to do. And you're forcing your kids to do that. And it's just nonsense. Thank you so much. I mean, it means a lot. And I'm sure that everybody can learn from it. Probably your kids cannot be a Harvard graduate kids just like Dr. Fong's kids, but I'm sure that they can live for themselves, right?
And that's also the other thing. The question is, does Harvard or Yale or Princeton make you more successful? Or is it because you're so good you got into them that you already have it in you? And my feeling is you already have it in you.
Yeah.
It's not the school, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have it in you, okay, you're going to be successful no matter what. And how do you teach success to the kids? By nurturing them. Don't give them rote memorization. This is not, where you take a national examination and number 1, 2, and 3 gets in the best schools. Okay. This is where creativity, individualism counts. Have your kids become leaders and have them voice their opinions. I think that's the way to raise the kids.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing these information as a father and as a doctor. Thank you so much. And also, since Dr. Fong is a wonderful surgeon, I'm sure that you guys can trust your eyes in his hands, right? So if you wanted to know more regarding the surgery, and if you have myopia, nearsightedness, partial myopia, farsightedness, there's multiple options that they can provide for you. 如果你有近视、老花、散光或者是远视问题的话，甚至白内障都可以来找 Dr. Fong。那 Dr. Fong 呢，他是目前纽约地区做激光飞秒以及白内障手术 RLE 晶体置换手术最多的医生啊，所以呢，案例能够说明一切。他的诊所呢，现在纽约是排名第1名，同时他也是在连续19年被列为纽约地区 Top Surgeon， 那只有 7% 的医生能够获得这个荣誉。那同时呢 Dr. Fong 的2维码就在屏幕上面，大家也可以扫码或者是填写微信号 NYICE1哈，然后呢来做免费咨询。如果你是50岁以下的话，那可以做免费咨询。50岁以上的话，我们需要为您做这个 full check-up 全面检查，需要您有纽约州的保险哈。那同时呢 EVO ICL 晶体现在立减$1500，适合21到45岁的朋友。如果你有深度近视的话，这个是 perfect for you， 完全适合您哈，可以去联系一下。同时呢，也将会在未来为您提供更多有利的一些信息，不仅仅是在眼科近视，而且呢是作为一个整体我们亚洲人共同繁荣的一个方式。也祝您新年快乐。Thank you so much, Dr. Fong, for sharing your expertise. It's so good. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a happy new year.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye. See you next episode. Bye.